Hey everyone, I'm Vincent, VP of Marketing at Trolley. I'm with Myles Carter, Director of Content Marketing at Trolley, and with Andrew Franz, CEO and co-founder of Panel. Full disclosure, Panel is a customer of Trolley. We actually met in 2023, if I recall correctly, at Creator Economy Live. Had a good chat, and then very grateful that you accepted to join us today for a conversation. Thanks for that.
I appreciate you guys for having me. It's always fun to talk with other interesting people doing interesting things. So excited to get into it.
Andrew, you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like you said, I'm the CEO and founder of Panel. We're an influencer marketing platform and agency. We focus in the area of connecting brands and influencers and making sure there's good trackability, quick payments, making sure that that whole process goes really seamlessly and all the data is tracked to replicate success and scale things up.
Where's home base for you? And then maybe if you can jump into a little introduction of where Panel sort of spun up from, be great to understand a little more about Andrew and Panel and how the two play together.
I'm located in New York City. I've been here for a while now. Some of my team is in LA and Atlanta as well. But personally, I'm in New York. How Panel came about, I guess I'll give the medium, length answer. I started my career actually on Wall Street, which is why I'm in New York and never have left. But came here, was doing finance, actually then left to go to I always kind of wanted to do something entrepreneurial. Investment banking certainly wasn't scratching that itch. So I left and went to a bit more of an entrepreneurial company, a big company called Fluent that does digital advertising. There I was running finance and M&A and doing M&A deal we were doing. I learned a bunch about the creator economy and creator space and kind of had a light bulb moment where I was like, okay, this is like a really cool space. Nobody's really figured it out yet. There's plenty of room to like go in there and become an expert. There's not traditional shipping industries or, lawn care or whatever that, there's hundreds of year veterans and companies that have just been doing it forever. There wasn't that in this space. So I felt like it was ripe for disruption. And really from there, I dug my toes in. I launched Panel. And with it, I think I'm kind of combining a lot of the affiliate marketing stuff I did with Fluent with a lot of like the data and financial analysis stuff that I did in banking. I guess I get to exercise a new skill set a bit, which is like, the creative part of my mind. As much data there is in everything, there's still have to come up with a creative ad and a creative concept and try to tie that to data as much as you can. I don't know if you guys want to share a bit more about what you guys do as well and a bit more about Trolley for anybody listening.
Definitely. Yeah. So Trolley is a payout platforms for the internet economy. The whole ethos behind Trolley is that we make sure that creators get paid fast. We are huge on direct to bank, try to give the most benefit to the creators as much as possible. The net 30, the net 60, the net 90 days can be very hurtful. When you're trying to create a business, we like to think that we just enable certain economic opportunities for creators. And we love to partner with companies like you who are forward looking. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do. And then our core verticals are our creator economy. We have a lot of customers within the royalty space as well. Shout out to SoundCloud, CD Baby, Hopeless Record, all those great customers that we have. So very fun time so far.
Vince and I have been building the marketing team at Trolley for the better part of 2.5 years now. Our goal is not just to push that we have this tech solution, but we want to push that we have something that can enable opportunities for anyone who's in the creator economy, but especially those places that are underserved. One of the things we really want to do is make sure that people understand there's talent everywhere. Sometimes that talent is just limited because they can't get paid and they want to work. They want to find ways to get involved. They want to find ways to just monetize something that they love doing. It's one of the things that really spoke to me when I joined Trolley was that we weren't just talking about paying like Canada, United States, UK, and maybe some of Western Europe. We were talking about paying people in Southeast Asia. We were paying people in Africa. We were paying people in South America. This is where the next round of talent's going to come from. And that's what we're really sort of excited about.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest things that it's helped me with is like the scale of payments. Like on any given day, I mean, on a high day, there might be like 50, cash outs or invoices in my queue from somebody that, did a brand campaign. Like, being able to just go in and be like, approve, 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 and then, have that all run, and they can go in and manually set up their, details through the white labeling that you guys, set up for our app or the widgets. That part's really helpful, along with the tax component as well. Obviously with payments, especially at scale and 1099s and all of that, there's a huge tax burden and, workload that comes with all of that. And that's something that I know, I largely rely on you guys for, because it's
Right.
not something that interests me in, spending my time on, but it's 100% necessary and required.
We try to help those who need to deal with all this.
Oh my God.
We had a chat with a potential customer this week, and they have 250,000 every single time they need to file. It's just huge. The workload is huge. So we're trying to reduce the burden and make it super easy. On certain sides of the business, it's totally out of their scope of expertise and competencies as well. Like, you have like two founders, they start a business, and then this tax thing comes like all of a sudden, and they're like, oh hell, we need to deal with that. I guess because of your background in finance, like this is a bit of a lens that you apply on what you do at Panel. Like, how do you you said that you were a lot data driven. Us marketers, we also have to interface with finance folks and CFOs sometimes. So it's always interesting conversations. How you think about that, working with creators and building a business within the marketing space?
It's funny because so many people in the creative space, like I went from, again, like Wall Street, a bunch of Ivy kids that were trained to be, finance bros and are just super well versed in all of that. So some 20-year-old kids that like put up a YouTube video and started going viral and have money coming in, and maybe they never had any money before in their life, and now are trying to figure out what to do with it. I'd say we have a lot of left brain people in this space that aren't as business savvy. They're super creative and super unique and skilled, but like very few of them understand what a P&L is, how to run a P&L responsibly. I think a lot of them think, oh wow, I made $20,000 this month, I guess I can go spend that on a car or a chain or, a watch or something that people will think that I'm killing it and it's cool.
You mean they can't go buy a watch and a chain and a car? Why do they get into it? Why are they in there?
Well, eventually maybe they can if they, invest responsibly and save money and do it for 5 or 10 years.
Pay their taxes.
Pay their taxes. Yeah, then probably it's a good time, but probably not the first time you see that money. I genuinely care about like the creators that I work with. Like, so many of them are super cool, unique people that just aren't as grounded in business and, numbers as I am. So trying to walk them through, hey, if you do this video, you're going to spend $3,000 on the production of it. Casting and to bring people into the video might be another $5,000. So you're going to spend, call it, $10,000 or so on the video. If your video gets 2 million views, you're going to make $20,000 from YouTube. If you throw another brand sponsor on it, you can make another $20,000. So you're going to make $40,000 of revenue, spend $10,000 on the cost of the video, and $30,000 profit. That's a good investment. You should do that. But then there's other cases where you're going to end up spending $10,000 and only make $5,000. Like maybe, the tax component, I think that's something that we can probably both as companies work on and help with, because I know people really don't think about taxes. Like I run their payment, it hits their bank account, and they kind of see that money as all theirs. And then when, almost half of it is owed at the end of the year and they spent it all, it's a tough position to be in. I think just for normal W-2 employees, you just don't really get to see the money, and that's kind of an easier way to not end up screwed. But I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's obviously different from different countries. Like I'm in Canada. I have a teaching gig on the side where they pay me fully as if it was my only job. At the end of the year, of course, they're like, knock, knock. We've just found out it's not your only job. This is how much you owed. I got pretty savvy over time, I think. I'm trying to leverage those months where I have like the full money to try to invest that a little bit and try to make a bit of money out of this and then withdraw, like make sure that I can pay my taxes at the end. So you need to be savvy. But I think like genuinely like the system just failed everybody on teaching all those things. And if you're not interested in this, and maybe I got interested because I'm in marketing, I need to talk about cost per lead and cost per acquisition and all that jazz. I got interested in all this, but if you're not and you're fully like focus on creation and you're like, I'll figure this out later, then sometimes you get a bit screwed. I think like the education piece could be, it's actually something that resonates a lot. And then I think it would be very helpful for those creators. And we know, like you read everywhere that Gen Zs, they just think about that differently than what are we?
We're millennials. We're millennials.
Yeah, millennials, exactly. So Gen Zs versus millennials, they think about these things very differently, and our parents as well. So there's a big gap in the system right now, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's even savvy ways like of, making sure that you're structuring your business in a way that optimizes for taxes or your expenses. Because like, if you just are taking on the money and you don't have an LLC or something, like, again, going back to my example, those $10,000 of expenses against that $30,000 that you made, you want to make sure that everything is, organized accordingly, because then you don't have to pay taxes on the full 30,000. Maybe there's some other things you can add in there to help lower your tax burden as well. So it's even for someone like me that's a finance guy, like I know there's always probably more and better things I can be doing. So, I can only imagine the burden it is on, creatives that are 20 years old that are trying to figure this all out in a space like the creator economy where real money's changing hands. I mean, we're not talking about $100 here and there. We're talking about 6 to 7 figures in a year. It's real money, and you can find yourself in a really tough spot if you get it wrong. The other thing too about people at that age is like, try to save the money, and like even investing in like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or even like treasuries right now where rates are at. Like if you can put a decent chunk of change, even like, $100K in a year, which is, a fraction of earnings for some of these guys, into like some reasonably savvy investments when you're, 20. I know none of them ever can passively imagine being 40. But exactly. But that day will come. And if they invested it reasonably well, like over 20 years, like that 100K can turn into really real money. So I think that's another thing. I'm like, no, you don't think you're ever going to be 30 or even 40, even, but you will eventually. And small little things you can do to invest money now is going to go a really long way, like in the long term for you.
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious, like for a company like Panel, how a company like you think about expansion and then the international complexities as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for starters, like the US is definitely the place to be for like marketing in general and influencer marketing. I would say, for the relative near term, our focus is pretty US heavy because there's so much market share to take. But obviously, if a brand wants to do something internationally and it makes sense, I think, it really is something that I would leave up to you guys to some degree to help me figure out. From a payment standpoint, which is probably the most complicated part of it, different cultures definitely have different ways that ads and creative and like media that they consume. Canada and the US are close enough that campaigns and those, but if you start to go to like Asia or Africa and places that, I think culture starts to come in pretty heavily in campaigns, which is, well, I guess for now, I'm not going to overly, focus on it and, stick within kind of the lane that I think I can do the most damage.
Definitely.
One of the things we're hoping with this podcast is that we can speak to people who are building something. We want to speak to people who are building a new business, building in the creator space. Can you take a minute, maybe talk about some of the problems that you and Panel attack that might be a little different than the other players in the industry?
I think just in general, like it's such a new and inefficient marketplace. Like anything, there's supply and demand, supply being media on creators' social channels and demand being eyeballs and advertiser budgets. So trying to like match supply and demand within it right now is like extremely inefficient. I think there's a lot of things that are broken. Like I think most creators charge more than they're worth, and most brands don't know how much they can pay or like what their return's going to be or, what they should do. So it's, I think this space has started off a bit like the Wild West. Brands want to be spending in it because it's hot and cool. And we're all marketers here. We know like there's serious FOMO that goes on in anything marketing related. Oh, well, everybody's spending on TikTok. We need to be doing that without necessarily
doing a podcast.
Everybody's doing a podcast. Exactly. I think there's huge inefficiencies in market, and that's really where like, the tracking and the numbers and like, hey, how many views did this get? How many clicks did it get? How many conversions did it get? how does that compare to, you know, others that are promoting the same thing? How similar were their creatives? If their creatives were the same and they put it on a similar spot in a similar video, those yields will probably end up being pretty similar for the advertiser. So there's no reason that they would be spending $10,000 on one of them and $1,000 on the other, which is, you know, how pricing is right now. It's just so random. So I'm trying to, I guess, use the data and the pricing and the outcomes that we're able to model. And, you know, our models are getting better and better as we get more data, and create that efficiency in the marketplace and find like real equilibrium where a brand is spending $5,000, getting $6,000 of value back, you know, $1,000 of profitability is just like, all right, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And in a lot of ways that ends up ending up in more money for creators. Like the alternative of really where I see things going right now is like, instead of getting 5,000 for the post, they ask for 10,000. And then the advertiser gets that 7,000 back and it's like, all right, we're not doing this anymore. We lost money. So that creator
Price
walks
too
away
high
with,
and no return.
they walk away with $10,000, the creator does, but if they would have charged 5, they could have done it every week for the rest of the year and made $100,000. So finding that sweet spot, I think, is really what we're focused on and getting pretty good at. How are we different? I think so much of the rest of the space is focused on like brand awareness. And I don't want to call it vanity metrics because there is like real value in brand awareness. It's probably like North Star of all of marketing. But it's just where I've been focused and where I've found success is like where you can actually track that back to ROI and metrics. You went out with a model and can fine tune that model and really scale it up in a way that is a win-win-win. We're happy because we get repeat business and, you know, we're taking a rip out of the deal. The advertisers are happy because they're scaling up their user acquisition in a profitable way. And creators are happy because they have money flowing in every month. So that's really the sweet spot.
Does that influence the different advertisers that you work with? For example, a direct response type of buy on the platform really depends on the product, right? So for example, you won't buy Trolley with your credit card on the website. Do you think about that when you partner up with advertisers and be like, that product is going to be a hard sell, and you may not see the value?
Well, it's a great question. I definitely have clients that I'm like, I can blow this up. Like there's like perfect fit clients. And like when I'm talking to them, I'm just like, I know it's going to work. Just like, watch me cook. And then there's clients that are, to your point, like B2B SaaS products, for example. I guess for starters, I would say that isn't particularly in my wheelhouse. Like, I don't know if influencer media is the right marketing channel for like a B2B SaaS product, just because I try to work with brands that are like as universally applicable, because targeting isn't that like if someone puts out a video, like the algorithm's going to show it to like a ton of different people, ton of different ages and a ton of different countries. The algorithm's just going to do its thing. If you want like hyper targeting and your audience is pretty niche, I guess you can go to micro influencers. But like my sweet spot has been around finding like, you know, a mobile game or, you know, a quick sign up or something that's really applicable to like as broad of an audience as possible. But the one thing I've been thinking about and considering with a couple of e-com clients is direct response. This goes back to your earlier point. Direct response isn't necessarily the best option for them. I think you always want to push something into a conversion. The conversion might just not be a, you know, $500 a month, you know, B2B SaaS product or whatever. The conversion point is a data collection. So maybe you get a phone number, email opt-in against some type of promotion, and then you can use those quote unquote less expensive channels to retarget and get a conversion down the line.
How do you think about AI within the influencer space yourself?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I definitely someone that doesn't like to like overuse AI or over, you know, fantasize about it. But one thing that I have been thinking about is exactly what you were talking about. I build these models in Excel to like when I'm telling a client, hey, like if we run with this influencer, this is their audience. This is how many views they're probably going to get. Those views are going to get this many clicks and this many conversions and this much ROI. I'm constantly modeling that out based on my own experience and the data that I have. There's definitely a way that AI could probably do it more accurately, if not just at more scale, and create a dashboard, which is something that we're working on. You need data to feed it at the beginning, but once we have some data, It's kind of like, this is going to be your cost per impression, cost per click, cost per conversion estimate on this news source, because it's similar enough to stuff that we have data on. And like, I think using AI, if you can get that down to even like 10% plus or minus, we're a lot better off than we are right now, where people are just praying that it works.
That's going to be huge.
I think that will be the biggest use of AI for us. Outside of like, I use it for like some legal stuff. I think customer support's a great place for it. I think there's like certain particularly good use cases for it, but I think modeling will be the most, applicable for us. And if I can turn my modeling ability into an AI bot, then that frees me up to do more stuff, which would be great.
Exactly.
What about you guys? How are you guys thinking about AI for Trolley and in general in the space?
Like day to day, we're already finding a couple ways to leverage it. So me and the content team, we're finding ways to use it in proofing, use it in writing, getting like anything to speed the content process up like 1% day over day. We know the next generation of search is not going to look like Google query answer and you get the top result. It's going to be like an amalgamation of all those results. So we're starting to think about how we can feed that.
Well, for me, it has become like my assistant. I got a second monitor just to have like ChatGPT open all the time and just like ask questions and then just challenge what I thought like I wanted to create, and then ask like in return, what do you think about this? Obviously, we need to be careful when it comes to business data, but it has become really like a powerful tool. And I think like when you think about that, like 2 years ago, there was no such thing as ChatGPT and OpenAI. And then now, I don't know how many millions of users they have, but it's just nuts. It's a profound change. It's just like, it's mind blowing. A little bit when internet started, right? Like it started like could do a few things, and then 10 years later, everybody has it in their own. Really
I think
looking
for content creation, technology in general has made it so much more accessible. Like iPhone cameras can like shoot really good video, and like I think where AI can come in is like editing that video and like helping, give better ideas. Like right now, Mr. Beast, I think, has like 100 editors on staff. They get terabytes of video like every time they do video. So like having AI be able to like go in and edit, like you use your iPhone, get really high res content, and then, use AI to edit it, and you can just pump out content way more efficiently. And then even be like, hey, analyze my content. What's doing well right now? What's some new content ideas? And like kind of get it into your mix. And I think volume of content will go up.
Yeah, I think some of the training stuff that GPT is letting us do now, like train it for our style, within 6-12 months, we're going to be building style guides that help us have GPT create in our voice. It can get us 80% there. We're going to have to put the fine touch on. I think it's going to get us 90, 92, 93%. And then we're going to be working with it to turn something human the rest of the way. I think what we've seen for years is like the difference between a good copywriter and an okay copywriter is something that like resonates versus something that hits the same message but doesn't resonate. Let's go versus just do it are very close, but someone landed with just do it, right? I think that's what we're going to see. The next great round of like content creators are going to know how to take that final step, how to prompt well and deliver well.
I do think AI still has a long way to go, though. I know that it's super exciting and like a super hot buzzword, but it does a lot of things not that well yet. Like I'm always testing it to be like, is this going to help me out? And like, I mean, it's obviously developing really fast, and there's like all these really cool use cases. I think there's so much hype around it. I think it'll probably cool off and then come back again in maybe 10 years or so and be a whole nother level up. But there's so much need for humans still, and, people actually doing stuff. Like AI is like, it's helpful little assistant, but like, it's not much more than that yet, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know.
To your point, Andrew, I think, yes, it's going to probably impact the production chain. Instead of having like 100 people on staff, maybe like 75, 50, whatever that scale is, but you will always need that human intervention. I think we're going to get better at finding that like, oh, this has been written by AI. In marketing, for example, we'll see a lot of content being created, and then how brands will cut through the noise will be with that human quality that's going to resonate with people. And when you think about it, that's just the basic of marketing in the end.
Yeah, I think people are going to want more and more like human stuff. As AI gets better, human is going to become like a commodity that becomes, more and more valuable as like real human interaction, not made with AI. I mean, you even see, to my point, like you see all these Gen Zers using cameras from like 1980 to take pictures when they're out together. There's always going to be some revert to like, all right, like we don't need all this technology. Like let's try to touch grass and do something a little bit more normal. So AI comes up more and more. There's still going to be like, I want stuff that's purely human. And I think, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Differentiation, so important. When something becomes very crowded, you need differentiation. So for creators, that's going to become super important. All right, let's try to bring this home. How do you think about the next 2 to 3 years for Panel?
Yeah, I mean, it's really turning a lot of things that we can do manually and do from experience right now into technology. There's always going to be a human component of influencer marketing because it's the human business. It's me talking to another human on the other end. So that's never going to be fully automated. But as much of the components like, Trolley, for example, for payments, like, we've found a way to make that much easier with technology. Tracking clicks, conversions. We found a way to make that easier with technology. I think one of the ones that, I talked about earlier is how do we make our modeling better with technology, and how do we kind of like put the power that we have in our hands? We figured out how to make these campaigns really work. How do we hand that over to advertisers and creators and try to remove ourselves as much as we can reasonably from the equation by having a fully end-to-end tech stack that will kind of enable people to see what we see and do what we do. So I guess that's the next 2 or 3 years for us, is turning experienced and personal and manual tasks into technology.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Myles, anything to add?
Andrew, if you want to take a minute and plug anything, Panel, your URL, anywhere you want to point people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, our website is panelforcreators.com. Panel for Creators on Instagram as well. Follow us, Panel for Creators on YouTube as well. We have some other podcasts and stuff on there. If you enjoyed this podcast, check out some of those. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate you guys for having me on. Trolley's been a great tool for me. I mean, it's not sponsored or anything. Like, it really has been a good tool for me. It's definitely been a game changer for me.
Amazing. And we hope to be with you along the way for a long future. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. And it was a very interesting conversation. And we'll bring you back at some point for sure.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.